And welcome back to WGN TV Political Report. One of the biggest departures from his predecessor yet, President Joe Biden announced this week he's taking an aggressive approach to climate change. President Biden says he wants the U.S. to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030, end of the decade. He also announced he'd double climate change aid to low-income countries over the next 3 years. Illinois Congressman Sean Casten has made climate change a central point of his time in office. I caught up with him earlier this week about that issue and much more.
Congressman Casten, thank you for being with me. Good to see you as always. Let me start. Look, it was Earth Week this past week, and President Biden had a climate conference and a summit, and I know you want to talk about that a lot. We're going to. Before we get there, a couple things I need to ask you about. First, after the guilty verdict on all counts for Derek Chauvin, some said justice was served. Others said, no, that wasn't justice. It was accountability. If it takes a justice reform bill to actually achieve justice, how does this dysfunctional Congress, and I mean both houses, pass one?
Oh, I will not stand here and have our house tarnished with that brush. We've passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. We passed it last term. We've passed it again this term. And it is critical for that to be signed into law. I agree with, I guess, the counterpoint you had, that this was about accountability. I think we all sort of exhaled a little bit that justice was served, but we do still live in a country where chokeholds are legal for police officers. No-knock warrants are legal, the thing that killed Breonna Taylor. There still is very little accountability. Police departments are the only group that are legally allowed to violate constitutional limits. And we fixed those. We worked with police departments, we worked with Civil Liberties Group, we worked extensively with the Congressional Black Caucus and passed that through the House. And we need to get it done in the Senate and signed into law. Now, getting that done just requires that we do the will of the American people. It's hard to do the will of the American people when the filibuster exists to block the will of the American people and protect a tiny minority.
Well, let me step in there because you're right. I painted a broad brush because I did include the Senate as passed that. But let me now ask you the next question, because this week you and some of your colleagues hosted a press conference and wrote a letter joined by I think about 100 Democrats sent to the Senate, basically saying end the filibuster so Congress can get on to a myriad of legislation, from climate to guns to racial injustice, all that sort of thing. But of course, McConnell says be careful what you ask for, because one day you'll get a Republican Senate who will reverse everything you do right now. Plus, he thinks there's other ways to stop the process. What do you think?
Look, if McConnell is in control of the Senate, the last time McConnell was in the control of the Senate, he jammed through Supreme Court justices. He blocked Merrick Garland's appointment. I think the idea that McConnell will behave honorably but for a change that the Democratic Party might make is a bit disingenuous, to put it mildly. This is a change in rules. He can always change the rule back. He can always change it to this point when he gets there forward. But it's important to understand the history of the filibuster. Not only did our founders not create the filibuster, but our founders actually warned fairly extensively about anything that would require a supermajority. Federalist 22, James Madison, went at great length to say there's the problem, and I'm going to garble the phrase, but he said, it may have been Hamilton who said this, but he said, a supermajority creates the problems that it's designed to solve, because it effectively puts the minority in control. And it was created during the civil rights era, primarily, not the civil rights era, during Reconstruction. Yeah. Primarily because Jim Crow era senators were petrified at the idea that we might actually live in a country where the will of the majority was reflected. It's a problem. It gums up what was once the world's greatest deliberative body and is now a place where legislation that the American people want goes to die.
So it's out of your power, but we'll see what they do along those lines. By the way, I think it was Hamilton, there'd be a song about it, so I'm not sure about that, but we'll check. So, all right, this week, President Joe Biden was part of a world leader summit on climate, promising to reduce carbon emissions by 50% by the end of the decade. Clearly music to your ears. What do you say to Republicans who say, there is so much to deal with? You've been talking about some of these issues, that the climate efforts, they just don't rise to the level of taxes and deficits and other things we should be talking about, say the Republicans.
Look, every issue we deal with is made harder if we don't address the climate issue. Number one, our energy infrastructure today is old, it is dirty, And and if we want it to be reliable, we're going to need to build an infrastructure of the 21st century, not just put patches on the infrastructure of the 1950s. And so building out a reliable, responsible infrastructure, that's a part of a climate plan, right? If we want low cost energy, we're going to want to build resources, electric generating infrastructure that doesn't have any fuel cost, because that's a lot cheaper than things that do have fuel cost. So for economic growth, for putting more money in people's pockets, for job creation, this is all the right thing to do. And, you know, I think it is better, the debate is better understood not as a debate between Democrats and Republicans, but as a debate between energy producers and energy consumers. Anything we do is going to put more money in energy consumers' pockets at the expense of energy producers.
Some recent reports showing that folks in the Biden has spoken to the folks in the coal industry, and the bottom line is I think it's like $50,000 a year, and people in the solar panel energy would only be making would be making $40,000 a year, about a $10,000 difference in the shift to solar. So is this about, it might hurt in the beginning, but it's about a long-term plan?
Well, I think there are. I wouldn't put too much in the specific, wages right now. Who knows what wages will be in the future? There's no doubt that shifting from the energy infrastructure we have to a green infrastructure is going to create a ton of construction jobs. It's also going to, eliminate a lot of operating jobs. And there's different, there's different wage structures in those types of jobs. There's different, abilities to bargain and negotiate with your employer. And we have to think through that, and I think we will think through that. But in the near term, I don't think there's any debate. Everybody who's looked at it says we are creating way more green jobs than we're losing brown jobs.
Before we run out of time, I want to talk a quick question about water, lead pipes here in Illinois. Obviously, climate change impacting things, bad actors can attack our systems. I'm assuming you put water systems, lead pipes at the top of the list or near the top.
So it's been a huge focus of my friend and colleague Dan Kildee, who of course represents Flint, Michigan, and I generally follow his lead on these sorts of things. But he's been pushing, as have we in financial services, where we have oversight in the housing industry, to make sure that all new homes do not have lead pipes, to make sure that when municipals are building out distribution infrastructure, they don't have it. The challenge is that it's that set of pipe that connects from the municipality to the home. And sometimes it's hard to tell exactly who's responsible for funding that and who's responsible for replacing it. And so we've been working the infrastructure bill, trying to make sure that there's resources there so that we can bring that out and give people healthier water in their home.
What would you say to countries who say, they're thrilled that the U.S. is back, but they're fearful that in 4 years, President Trump could be back? So everything can be reversed. What do you say to them when they're so cautious right now about whether we really mean what we're doing?
I think it is completely fair criticism. An awful lot of the world, I think, is looking at the words coming out of the United States mouth and saying, that is terrific, it's good to have you back, but I'm going to watch your feet. And so I think it behooves us, if we are going to make sure that we leave a better planet for our kids than the ones we inherited, to lead. To do what the United States has long been, capable of doing. We've done it in so many areas. Climate has not been our shining moment of leadership in the sun. We have the opportunity to do it now. Biden has given us the goal. We now in the legislature now have to map out the path to get it done, so that when we get to Glasgow, when I go to Glasgow next year, hopefully I say hopefully once we're through COVID, that we can say to the rest of the world, look at what we have done, now follow our lead. But we're going to have to act.